Hey, welcome to the barbershop. You know, we all know the story of Father's Day. It's about burnt toast, handmade cards, and that one tie that we'll pretend to love and probably never ever will ever wear. The day supposedly was born from the daughter's simple, heartwarming tribute to her own dad. You know, that's the story they want us to believe. But what if I were to tell you that that's not the whole story? I'm a barber, and if there's one thing that I've learned from this chair, it's that people tell me things that usually don't come up in other conversations anywhere else. And the conversations in this chair over the last couple of years have less to do with the haircut and more to do with the information that nobody wants to air out. It's my older clients that will occasionally laugh about how their own father's generation mocked Father's Day. Or it's a history professor that pretty much giving me details on how the retailers cashed in on during the Great Depression. And interestingly enough, I've got two of my politician clients who've been sharing some interesting facts about how Father's Day was used as like this political tool back in the late 60s and early 70s. After hearing these stories day after day, I started to see a pattern. I had to do a little digging, and these pattern connects the scattered truths that these guys have been sharing in this chair belong to a much larger and more complicated story. So, now to be fair, the official story starts with a grain of truth. And that truth has a name. It is, Sonora Smart died back in the year 1909. And Sonora was sitting in a church listening to a sermon about this new holiday called Mother's Day. And as she listened, she thought to herself, you know, if mothers get a holiday, why don't fathers? Her father, Williams Jackson Smart. He was a Civil War veteran who raised Sonora and her 5 siblings after the wife died. So she launched a campaign. She petitioned local church leaders, and on June 19th, 1910, the very first Father's Day celebration took place in Spokane, Washington. Boys from the YMCA wore roses on their lapels, red for a living father, white for one who passed. And the ministers across the city gave sermons honoring fatherhood. You know, it's a beautiful story. It's the one you see on greeting cards. And for a little while, that's pretty much all it was, a local, heartfelt celebration. But the idea didn't take exactly to the country by storm. In fact, for decades, it struggled to gain traction and pretty much faced its fair share of ridicule. So, while Mother's Day was declared a national holiday back in, 1914, Father's Day just languished. For years, Congress resisted making it official. Part of the hesitation was the fear that it was going to be a commercial ploy to sell more stuff. But the bigger resistance, like I said earlier from a couple of my clients, my senior clients, the resistance actually came from the men themselves. In the early 20th century, the culture of masculinity was a lot different. A lot of men scoffed at the idea of a day dedicated to them that involved flowers and sentimental gifts. They saw it as too soft, too effeminate, a transparent attempt to domesticate them, pretty much with the same kind of praise that they reserved for mothers. Newspapers from that era made a lot of jokes. Cartoons mocking the holiday. Excuse me. Even some suggested that instead of having their own day, fathers should just get a Parents' Day to share. So for decades, that's where it stayed. A niche holiday, celebrated in some towns, but largely ignored and mocked by the nation. It was a nice idea that just couldn't stick to the landing. Okay, so you're probably asking, okay, so what changed? How did an unpopular, ridiculed holiday become a pillar of the American calendar? Right? The answer isn't love, it's money in crisis. The first big push came during the Great Depression. With the economy in shambles, retailers were desperate, for anything to get people spending again. I mean, it was pretty bad. The coalition of trade groups like for neckties and tobacco companies, they saw golden opportunity. They formed something called, the National Council for the Promotion of Father's Day. And they began marketing the holiday as like the second Christmas for men. Their campaigns urged families to show appreciation by buying Dad a new tie, or a pipe, or a pair of socks, things he might not buy himself in such hard times. They weren't selling sentiment, they were selling products. The next push came with World War II. Suddenly fathers had a new, powerful angle. Patriotism. The holiday was reframed as the new honor, or as a way to honor the millions of fathers serving overseas, fighting for their country. Celebrating Dad was now presented as a civic duty, a way to support the troops and the war effort. This gave the day a seriousness and I'd say a cultural weight that it probably pretty much always lacked. But with the new full force of commercialism and the patriotism, it still wasn't a national holiday. It would take 2 more decades and a country tearing itself apart for that to happen. Okay, so enter the 1960s. The nation's in turmoil. The Vietnam War was raging. The counterculture was challenging every traditional value, and the country was deeply divided. Sound familiar? It was in this climate of crisis that Father's Day finally got its political moment. In 1966, it got its first major presidential boost, with an anti-war protest growing. President Lyndon B. Johnson issued the first ever presidential proclamation to honor fathers. In this proclamation, Johnson highlighted the strength and stability that fathers provide to the family and the nation. At a time when the traditional institutions felt like they were under attack, officially recognizing Father's Day was a powerful statement, a way to reinforce traditional family values as the cornerstone of American strength. But it was his successor, Richard Nixon, who sealed the deal in 1972, with the war still dragging on and the Watergate scandal about to explode. The Nixon administration was focused on projecting an image of stability. For a president presiding over a fractured nation, officially recognizing Father's Day was an easy and powerful way to appeal to a sense of order, tradition, and national pride. His signing statement didn't mention politics. It spoke of the elemental magic and joy of humanity in fatherhood. And that brings me back to the stories I hear in the chair. The men who share these fragments of forgotten history, the ones who remember the jokes, who saw the ads, who felt the political shifts, aren't just thinking about the past. They're thinking about, or they're living with the consequences. They're thinking about the mortgage. They're worried about whether they're a good enough dad, or a good enough provider, or even a good enough man. The myth we've been sold about Father's Day isn't just historical. It's an ongoing toxic ideal of the perfect, unshakable father that was so useful to marketers back in the day, and probably still is, and to politicians. That stoic hero from the war posters, the reliable provider from the 1930s ads, the rock of stability from the presidential proclamations. This ideal can be a huge weight to bear. It's a standard that men struggle at times to live up to. I hear it all the time. And the secrets whispered in this barber's chair, the anxieties, the mental health struggles, The feelings of inadequacy are the direct result of a century of being told what a father should be rather than celebrating for who they really are. So, did knowing all this ruin Father's Day for you? I really don't think it should. If anything, it should set us free. You know, it frees us from the pressure of the myth. It tells us to see the holiday not as a mandate to buy the perfect gift for the perfect dad, but as a chance to acknowledge the real, sometimes complicated, sometimes imperfect men in our lives, and understanding the history, the commercial push, the decades of ridicule, and the political maneuvering. It doesn't diminish the love. It just strips away the pretense. So this Father's Day, when you're celebrating your dad, remember the hidden story or the history. Remember that it's a day with a complicated past, born from a daughter's love, but was forged in a 62-year fight to be recognized. And maybe, just maybe, understanding that the complexity allows us to appreciate our real life fathers even more. Because they aren't myths or political tools. They're just human. And that's more than enough reason to celebrate. So, what does Father's Day mean to you? Is it about the gift, the attaboy from our family, or something more? Let me know in the comments below. I want to wish all the dads out there a happy Father's Day, and stick around for more chatter from the barbershop. And always remember, stay sharp and stay informed. Thank you.